Hey, welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman, bringing you the weather without all that social media hype here on your Monday, November 4th, 2024. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're tracking here for today as we're expecting some more severe weather. Parts of the south central portion of the United States got pounded over the weekend, and we have another day ahead for us before things begin to settle down just a little bit. We are looking at a tropical storm probably forming today. It'll be known as Rafael, forming down in the Caribbean, and it's got its eyes on the Gulf of Mexico. We'll talk about that in greater detail as well. And we're going to talk about where's the real cold air. We've got some cold air in the country, but not the real cold stuff. And really looks like that we may be fighting warm conditions in the east and staying kind of cool in the west, the way it's looking on the climate outlook, looking out toward the middle of the month. We'll talk about that in greater detail as well. Now, before we get into this report, first I want to thank the new subscribers to the channel. And if you haven't yet subscribed, what you waiting for? This is a free service and it's for you guys. Just go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And if you do appreciate the report and you have any remarks, leave a comment down below. Give me a thumbs up as it helps with the almighty YouTube algorithm. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our latest satellite imagery here. So we got this nice little swirl here, this upper level low, banging in with a cold front out ahead of it. It's pretty warm out ahead of it. We got cold air back here in the Intermountain region. So we're going to see more thunderstorms here firing up from Missouri down toward Oklahoma, Arkansas, and parts of Texas as we go into later this afternoon with that daytime heating. So here's that surface map. You see the frontal system right there. Even some snows falling back here across areas of Colorado and into New Mexico. The rains here stretching all the way up into the Great Lakes out ahead of that front. You see the warm front way up here to the north. Pretty mild here across the eastern half of the United States. Definitely cooler and colder out here in the west. Not super cold. We just can't seem to get the super cold air to get recharged up in Canada. A lot of the cooler shots have been coming over the Pacific or coming out of Alaska and across the Pacific and not really coming out of Canada so far this year. We'll see if that changes as we go further in the month of November. All right, current advisory out there. The green, you see all the flash flood watches here across Oklahoma, Missouri, and North Texas. This is winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings in the pink. They're from Washington State all the way down into New Mexico. And I got a couple of these little wind advisories out there, but I do expect some additional tornado watches later today, especially across this portion from Missouri down in toward North Texas a little bit later for this afternoon. We are getting some thunderstorms that are just moving through the Oklahoma City area for the rush hour this morning. You see the thunder and lightning. We've even had a couple of tornado warnings earlier this morning. Those were radar indicated, but it looks like things have settled down here briefly for the moment. But from Oklahoma City, heading over toward Arkansas, and that's going to be areas we're going to watch very closely for the potential for tornadoes and maybe even some large tornadoes. And we might see some more images like this. This is from early Sunday morning around the Oklahoma City area. Some of the devastation caused by some of these large tornadoes that impacted that area. And we may see more storms like that for today before things begin to settle down. So let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to see from the Storms Prediction Center here as we look at the day one outlook here, as we do have that enhanced area for severe weather expected to take place here for today. This stretches basically from Missouri coming out into northern Texas. So you see the orange right through there. Joplin's in there, Oklahoma City's in there as well, and getting the northern suburbs of the Dallas area under the gun. So let's break this down by the category. Let's look at first the tornado risk, which is going to be running about a 10%. That's that area there in yellow, but that's exactly where that enhanced area that you would see right in there running pretty high. Again, the SPC is saying that some of these could be on the strong side. That means EF3 or above potentially with some of these storms here for today. Let's look at the hail threat here for today. That'll be in a pocket there covering most of Oklahoma. It looks like southeastern portions of Oklahoma into North Texas. A little bit of sliver of the Arkansas as well. And the wind damage, that's going to be your highest threat there, obviously, in the red, stretching from Missouri down into North Texas, running about 30% for some high winds, excess of 60 miles per hour, not out of the question. Now, as the system begins to push off toward the east, as we look at the day two outlook, it begins to settle down a little bit. Just a couple of marginal areas there across Wisconsin for, obviously, Election Day, and we got a little bit of marginal risk for severe weather across Arkansas and Louisiana. But overall, it doesn't look too bad there for most of the country for voters getting out and casting their vote on your Tuesday. And then finally, looking at your day three outlook here, just a general thunderstorm threat here across the southeast. And this is much, much needed here if we get this to kind of happen here, as this part of the country has been dealing with some pretty good drought, especially across Alabama with the drought conditions, but some much needed rain falling there as we go into your Wednesday. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the rain threat here for today. Again, parts of this area has been inundated with a lot of rain over the last few days, and we're going to continue to see that here for today, stretching from Michigan all the way down in here toward Texas with that slight risk for some heavy rains and some isolated flooding. Obviously, we got the flash flood watches I just showed you out there for this morning. Let's go ahead and take a look at your day 2 outlook here. We'll go over to day 2, and again, just a marginal risk there of some maybe isolated flooding. It's kind of getting into areas that have been kind of hit with dry conditions. So I think we can handle this pretty much going into your Tuesday with some brief heavy rains out there. And then finally going over to day 3, this gets into the southeast, Georgia, Carolinas, and the North Florida. They definitely could use the rain here. So not worried about you folks getting in too much in the way of too much rain too fast. Maybe some isolated flooding areas here and there. But for the most part, we're looking pretty good here for the middle of the week. Now, while we're dealing with that one system, again, we recap this once again, getting a little ahead of myself here. Again, that enhanced zone for severe weather for today. We're talking Oklahoma City, we're talking Tulsa, Garland, Texas, Springfield, Missouri in that enhanced zone. The slight risk zones, obviously, we're talking about the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. That includes Grand Prairie, Irving, Arlington, and, of course, Dallas-Fort Worth. And the marginal risk includes Houston, San Antonio, St. Louis, and Shreveport, Louisiana here for today. So that is our severe weather roundup. Now we got to talk about the tropics. Getting a little ahead of myself. We'll get into the tropics here as we're watching our tropical potential tropical cyclone 18. But this one's going to become a Raphael a little bit later today. So this is the main area we're going to watch right there. Whoops, let's get the right one there. There we go. As we're watching that right through there. Let me get that cleared out. There we go. So there you go. We'll circle that. And then we're also watching this area up here to the north of the Hispaniola area. Also might see a disturbance that may fire up there as well, although it's only running about a 20% chance here as we go into the next 7 days. So let's break this down. Let's first take a look. Soon to be Raphael. This will be Tropical Storm Raphael. We do have the tropical storm warnings up here for the island of Jamaica. Hurricane warnings are up here for the Cayman Islands. So right now, the strength forecast for this system is only expected to get about 80 miles per hour. So we're talking about a Category 1 hurricane. Not expecting anything major. The one thing I do notice here on this cone of uncertainty, it is very, very large. There's a reason for that is because it's depending on the placement of a high pressure off the east coast there on whether it's going to go into the southeast or is it going to push off toward Texas or other areas like that. So we've got to watch this forecast. I think it's going to change just a little bit, probably more so than what we've seen with earlier systems here so far this year. So looking at the satellite imagery, you can see the storms circulating around here. Nothing too be overwhelming right now. So it's, again, not even quite a depression just yet. It probably will be later today. I think it may just jump straight to a storm. We'll see how it works out here as we go throughout the afternoon, as this will be moving up again toward Jamaica and then making the move toward the Gulf of Mexico as we go for the next few days. So let's talk about those sea surface temperatures. The reason why I think we're going to get this thing to strengthen is the fact that we're still looking at some pretty good bathwater out here. Again, these tropical systems feed off some very warm temperatures. They're sitting, between 84 and 86 degrees down here. But once it gets in the Gulf of Mexico, much cooler, kind of in the upper 70s to around 80 degrees. The water temperature cools off there. Hurricanes and systems like that, they feed off those warm waters. 80 degrees or higher is what they like to feed off of here. So as we look at the ESANS Ensemble model, again, it's really picking up this thing. What we're watching here is where is this high that shifts up out here is going to set up, okay? If it pushes, it can push the track this way, but notice that we've got a, if it's strong, southeast, it will push it to the west, which is what some of these are doing, and some of them are kind of breaking it off and scattering it all over. So the trend is more toward the west, insisting that the high is going to be stronger. The American GFS model is not showing that. It's kind of allowing it to kind of track into the southeastern portion of the United States. So let's go ahead and talk about the model data. So we'll break this down. We'll first take a look at the European model here as it brings this system to the north near Jamaica, goes to the Caymans. That's what the track is showing for, and then goes into this. So I think going up to about Thursday, we're in fairly good agreement here. But after that, Thursday, the European model goes, oh, we're going to go due west and we're going to go this way. Now, I will say this, the European model is throwing some moisture out ahead of this into the southeast and then makes this turn as it makes a line toward Mexico as we go into our next week, and then it kind of falls apart. So that's the European model right there. Let's compare this to the American GFS model. And this, again, very similar track. So The GFS and European are pretty close. The GFS might be a little bit further to the east there, just a little bit, but it takes it up here into the Gulf. So we're looking at something here across the eastern Gulf of Mexico that tracks into the southeast. Again, that will be a welcome sight. We're not expecting a hurricane here, folks. We're talking about a tropical storm, maybe making a landfall over near Biloxi and then moving into the southeast, bringing some rain. Notice we do have another disturbance here on the GFS in that other area where we're kind of watching the next 7 days. It too likes to kind of go into the Gulf of Mexico, and then it kind of falls apart there. So those are the two areas that we're going to watch here over the next 7 to 10 days to see how that develops. So let's look at that jet stream. Again, that placement of that high offshore here, that's the high pressure here, is going to be key to whether it stays and kind of ridges across the southeast and pushes that to the west, or does it stay far enough offshore to where it comes in, the trough picks it up and pulls it into the southeast. So again, it's this big trough that's setting up that severe weather here for today. So that's what we're seeing here into this afternoon. Some very, very strong winds here at the 500 millibar level here across Oklahoma, Texas. You see that veering, that wind shear change with height that we're seeing through there. That's why we're expecting that active severe weather here for today, as this lifts on out and flattens out. Then as we go into this upcoming weekend, looks like another cutoff low spins off here going up toward Thursday and Friday, and this thing starts to come on out again. So as we look into Friday and Saturday, even this area will have to be watched once again for another round of severe weather potentially. I don't think it'll be as strong as what we're currently seeing, but again, another round of severe weather is there. It looks like the main jet stream here kind of flattens out just a little bit here as we go into this upcoming weekend, going into Saturday. And then another trough kind of digs down here across the high plains, a little bit further to the west here a little bit with that track here a little bit, but still high pressure here across the southeast. It looks like it's still going to be fighting, keeping the dry conditions across the southeast. We're just hoping some of that tropical moisture can work its way up and provide a little bit of rain relief for the areas like the Carolinas and into Georgia and Alabama. So we'll see how that works out. All right, now finally, let's go and take a look at the precipitation here. Well, not finally, got a couple more things to show you. As we look at the precipitation outlook, this is what we're watching here for this afternoon as we go into the evening hours here for those thunderstorms. Again, a few tornadoes, not out of the question here for starting late this afternoon and going into the evening hours there, going toward 10 o'clock. There could be some active weather there across eastern Texas, for example, and heading into Arkansas. Then this pushes off to the east, starts to weaken off a little bit. There's some of that tropical moisture working out ahead of that tropical. The Europeans throwing some moisture up here. Here's our tropical system down here, which will be Raphael as it's moving up toward the north, but it does steer it to the west. This is the European model. So we get a little rain across the southeast. That front stalls out here, and then we watch this weekend again going into Friday. This is late in the day on Friday. Could see another round of severe weather across Oklahoma and Texas. Again, with that upper level low feature right there, that's going to be kicking on out, and that'll kick off some more severe weather going into Friday, and then that'll continue into Saturday. That'll push off to the east, although it should weaken a little bit as that begins to lift on out. And still seeing that ridging, boy, still seeing that high pressure ridging here, kind of backing into the southeast once again. That'll keep it back to a dry pattern, so they might get a little rain, and then we're back to a dry pattern here across the southeast. That front's just dying as they move into that. And then toward the end of this run, we got another cold front coming on down, although this is probably some of the colder air that I've seen so far coming in this season. You got some cold air coming in across the high plains with that frontal system right here. But again, we still have ridging of high pressure here off the eastern seaboard. That frontal system's going to have a hard time coming down to the south air, but we'll definitely see some cold temperatures across the high plains and probably moving into the Great Lakes as we head in, say, the 13th into the 14th, heading toward the middle of the month. Now, precipitation-wise, let's look at the precipitation here as we're going to be looking at that heavy rain there in the middle of the country, obviously from the thunderstorms that we're expecting here for today and going into tomorrow. That'll move a little bit further to the east. Then we get some of this tropical moisture to come in as we head in toward Wednesday and Thursday, so much needed rains here coming across areas of Georgia, the Carolinas, and parts of the Florida Panhandle. Let's hope that verifies out. That'd be nice to see that in my neck of the woods. And then this track, you can almost see exactly where the track of this tropical system goes as the heavier rains kind of flows this way. But look at all this heavy rain here in the middle of the country over the next 10 days there across the middle of the country with multiple storm systems providing. We're definitely going to be beating back those drought conditions there in the middle of the country as this active weather pattern continues. Let's look at the southeast, and we'll look specifically talking about those heavy rains amounts across the southeast. you're looking at areas here showing some very heavy rain. I don't know about that 17-inch there. That's kind of a little excessive, but looks like anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of rain potentially in that area. And then here in the middle of the country with the several storm systems, upwards of 6, 8, 9 inches of rain total over the duration over the next 10 days. A possibility that's multiple storm systems pull through that region as well. Let's finally go and track the cold air. Again, we're going to continue with this pattern where basically the cold air is going to stay mostly out here in the west. It's not even a true Siberian air. It's more of a Pacific cold air mass than it is a continental cold air mass. Definitely seeing the chillier conditions there. This is the 850 level, so about 5,000 feet. Very warm here across the Great Lakes again. And we're just not getting a big push. We're getting these brief cool downs here. Very warm going into Tuesday. Look at this very warm air here across areas of the Great Lakes and into New England. We got a little cool down here in the middle of the country with a cold front pushing off toward the east there. But it really just falls apart. We still continue to say the cold air out in the west here going in toward Wednesday, toward the middle of the week there, going into toward the 6th. And then as we go in toward the rest of the period here on this 90-day outlook here, it really doesn't change that much. It stays pretty warm. Now switching this over to the 0Z, we'll go out a little bit further here as again we stay just cool there in the west. Briefly warms up for just about everybody going toward Monday. Look at that. I mean, everybody here very warm, especially across the areas of New England and going into the Great Lakes. Once again, we're just not getting a big push there until we get toward the end of the run here. And then we finally starting to see a push here toward the end. Finally, this is the best push I've seen of some cold air coming in out of Canada itself, something we've not seen so far here, with a lot of the cold air kind of coming in from this direction, kind of off the Pacific. This is more of a continental break of some cold air coming in, and we'll see if that holds true as we go toward the 15th. So if this pattern shifts, we get that trough to shift a little bit further to the east, maybe we see some cold air as we go toward the 3rd and 4th week, maybe heading toward Thanksgiving. We'll get some cold air across the eastern half of the United States, because really for about the last 3 weeks or so, the east has been very much on the warm side. So we're going to wrap things up by taking a look at the climate outlook here, the next 6 to 10 day outlook, pretty much mimicking what we're seeing there on the models. Warm here in the east, colder here out into the west, and that holds true going from the 11th to the 17th. Now, notice at the tail end of that run, we were seeing some cold air coming up here toward the north. So this updates later today. We'll see if it begins to reflect some of those changes on the extended outlook here as we were looking out toward the 14th, and maybe some colder air getting up this way. But again, we're looking for consistency in the models, because the further out in time you get, obviously, the greater the error factor there. Precipitation-wise, coast to coast, looking at above normal precipitation, because we're seeing a more active pattern. Even the southeast finally getting some of the rain, thanks to some of that tropical moisture kind of working its way up toward the north there. And this continues with a wet pattern from coast to coast as we go from November 11th through the 17th. So we're definitely going to be beating back a lot of drought conditions across the country, because it was so dry during the month of October. So a little more active weather pattern. It's just a question now, when are we going to get some really nice cold air to come down here across the eastern half of the United States? It's been mostly confined out to the west, and I know folks in the middle of the country and in the east, looking forward to getting some of their first freezes for the year. We did have a few areas got that cold snap in the middle of October, but that's been about it. So we'll see how this holds up as we go through throughout the month of November. Now, I'm going to keep a watchful eye on that severe weather here for later today. Haven't decided yet whether I'm going to jump online and do some severe weather coverage on that. But if you do, and if you'd like to get those alerts, all you got to do is subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on all that future content or when I'm going live. And again, as always, I do appreciate y'all's feedback. This channel is for you guys, so if there's something you'd like to see in the product or something you'd like for me to include, please leave a comment down below. I truly do appreciate it. All right, that's your morning update for now. You guys take it easy, be good, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.